Let's go out front now to the Democratic Senator Ed Markey. He sits on the Foreign Relations Committee. And, Senator, good to have you back. The president doing a 180 on China. There is no other way to describe that. As Jeff said, it is as if he is two different people. He's saying Assad is a butcher, relations with Russia at an all-time low. NATO is not obsolete. Are you glad when you hear all these things?
Well, in some instances, I am glad. I'm glad that he's squaring up his philosophy with reality. But we don't know if this is just today, because 2 weeks ago he was saying that Assad could stay, and they accepted that. So I think that it just confuses our allies. It undermines our role on the world stage. It doesn't have any coherence as a foreign policy whatsoever. And it continues to look like they're just making it up week to week, and they just don't have a common philosophy which they are bringing to all of these issues, and that undermines the role of the United States in the world.
So, Senator, on this issue of China, Trump said that China's president agreed to take action on North Korea. He said they just had another conversation. In fact, so much action that Trump is not labeling China a currency manipulator. This one I really do believe went to his heart. He believed China's a currency manipulator. He has talked to me about this in interviews for more than a decade. Okay, but all of a sudden tonight, they're not a manipulator. Do you think that the president made a breakthrough with China on North Korea? Or do you think that China is now successfully manipulating him?
Look, we have been talking to China off and on for years about North Korea. Thus far, to no effect in terms of deterring the North Korean nuclear program. That is the entire history. If the president thinks that his conversations over these last couple of days on Thursday and Friday of last week have led to a huge breakthrough on the North Korean ballistic missile and nuclear weapons program, I think that we're going to need a lot more evidence than him just saying so, because I doubt it. That's not how the relationship between China and North Korea has actually unfolded until this point in time. And in fact, the one thing that the Chinese have asked the United States to do over the years is to engage direct talks with Kim, and Trump is refusing to do that now, although he said during the campaign that he would. And so in each one of these instances, it is almost incomprehensible what the exact strategy is and whether or not there are any results whatsoever. We do know that today, Russia actually vetoed the resolution in the UN Security Council on the chemical weapons. And we also know that the president did a complete flip-flop on currency manipulation in China, but without any specific return on that change of policy, while abandoning all of his voters who he said during the campaign in 2016 were being tipped upside down and having their money being shaken out of their pockets and their jobs being exported to China. And all of a sudden he does it, and he doesn't even have a concrete explanation as to what he received in return.
So, he did not have that answer. He also, when talking about Russia, said U.S. relations with Russia are at an all-time low. And he was asked specifically, Senator, whether it's possible that Bashar al-Assad launched that chemical attack without Russia knowing about it. He said that is unlikely, right? He's saying they probably knew about it in advance. Here he is.
I think it's certainly possible. I think it's probably unlikely. And I know they're doing investigations into that right now. I would like to think that they didn't know, but certainly they could have. They were there. So we'll find out.
So he says it's possible the Russians knew, unlikely that they didn't, but there's an investigation. Does this sound like he is carrying Putin's water to you, or is he now standing up to Vladimir Putin?
Look at Secretary Tillerson met with Lavrov and Putin today. What would we want from that meeting? Number one, we would want Russia to actually promise to get all the chemical weapons out of Syria. That didn't happen.
Well, they did in 2013, right? They promised to do that, and they didn't do it. So that promise doesn't seem to mean so much.
Right. So if President Trump is going to be successful, he's got to get them to agree to remove all those chemical weapons now, and that didn't happen. Secondly, Iran and Turkey and Russia reached an agreement for a ceasefire last year. That has not actually been implemented. That should be honored. That didn't happen today. There should be, thirdly, full distribution of humanitarian aid throughout Syria. Secretary Tillerson did not receive that as a concession today, and that the opposition party should be going to the table with Assad to reach a negotiated diplomatic resolution. That didn't happen today. And from my perspective, if President Trump wants to be serious, he should say to Putin he's prepared to impose brand new crippling sanctions on Ras Baran Export and all their suppliers, which is the one company in Russia that sends weapons into Syria. That would be a strong message. None of that has happened.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.